think that's ready. So welcome everyone to today's info session on the Chief Inspector promotion process. Just to let you know the content for today, we'll be going through details of the actual rank. So Chief Detective Chief Superintendent, if I get my words out, Duncan Young will be going through being a leader, Chief Inspector, national picture control strategy of the local forces, sorry, and then I will be sitting in for Laura Mills. I'll talk you through the more process side of things. So that's the applications for moderation stage, board stage, timeline, and disclosures. If you do have any questions or anything like that, feel free to just jump in, raise your hand, or put it in the comments. I'll be monitoring all of that. With that said, Duncan, I'll pass it on to you.
Top man, thank you. So you're going to move straight to slide 3. That's the one. Thank you, folks. Slide says, for those that don't know me, I'm Detective Chief Superintendent Duncan Young. I've spent time in the collaborated services across Beds, Cans and Herts and worked on a few national projects, but I am a Beds officer in my heart through and through for 24 years. I'm currently in charge of the Intelligence Command over here in Bedfordshire. And I've got a background across mainly covert and over investigative roles in that 24 years. It just gives you a synopsis of where I am, and I will be running the process this year. The other 2 people at the moment, things are always subject to change, but the plan is not. I personally feel it's only fair, and I always like to know who else is going to be on my panel for these processes. So I don't know if that's been shared with you yet, but there will be Superintendent Kelly Gardner, who from PSD, so she'll have a good line of sight across the Triforce, and it will be Leanne Greenacre, who's one of the chief analysts over here. Again, great knowledge and awareness of those pinch points and strategic deliverables around our priorities in the force. So that will be your panel, or your proposed panel at this moment in time. There's nothing suggests at the time of having this meeting that will change, and so it'll be us 3, just to give you that awareness. Okay. We'll pick up questions at the end, but listen, we're all really busy, and if you're struggling to stay on at the end because of the things going on right now and you've got a question, please just raise your hand. I don't mind you jumping in to ask a question. Believe me, none of this is scripted, so I'll just go into full flow as we go through the slides. Feel more than welcome to put your hand up or ask a question, and I'll do my best to direct you towards Saeed, who'll probably be able to answer it. Okay, folks, look. This is really clear, and you're going to have this presentation to refer to. So when I'm looking at this slide, this is, to me, it's all about what it's like being a leader at Chief Inspector level. And to summarise, that's about putting people internally and externally first and building those professional relationships with your colleagues, with partners, with people across other departments. And the reason for that is to ensure we've got effective welfare of your people, and we're delivering that BU culture. For those people outside of Bedfordshire Police, if you don't know what the BU culture is, I strongly recommend you to become versed in it. Me personally, as well as the force, something I believe in quite strongly, and it's what our mantra is, to making sure that we look after individuals and their uniqueness within Bedfordshire Police to deliver our force needs. And that's how we get the best from our people. So as a leader, at Chief Inspector level, this is the key here. It's not just about you. It's not just about your evidence. How do you get the best from your teams and your people? So is that through what methodology, what process? What is it about your character and your own personal beliefs and values that delivers that? Through tactical plans, how you deliver governance, performance frameworks, and make sure you achieve that need. They're all the things that I would be expecting to be seen from somebody who is operating at a Chief Inspector level. So ensuring you're developing those teams and those processes, and you're learning constantly reviewing, constantly learning as you're getting your teams to deliver that need and want. Because as a Chief Inspector, I can't emphasise this enough, it's not about you delivering the ask. I'll be expecting it to be about how you will lead a team of people, officers, staff, partners, that diverse group of people to achieve that end goal, that force strategic priority. So what is a tactical level that you do that drives those people and enables those people to give the best of them to deliver that need? So how do you do it? that's where you get evidence in terms of telling me how. The how is so important. And from somebody who did this process last year and was part of the paper sift, what I'd say is the main bit of people who are not getting through the paper sift application was there was loads of really nice buzzwords. That doesn't really mean a lot. You need to tell me how you do these things, not just what it is you do and making sure you've got a nice structure. How is it that you do it? How is it that you deliver that BU culture? How is it that you deliver against that force priority or manage and drive those teams to do it? Please make sure that the bulk of your evidence is that how. That's so important. And then, as I've alluded to, how does your evidence and your style support the wider impacts and issue the force faces? And that's where you need to evidence that not only does the way you work show strong ethical and tactical prowess, but you are aware of the strategic needs as well and the impact of those. So there's much broader and overarching issues, not just the tactical delivery that will sit within your evidence. So that's the why that will sit within the evidence that you'll be asked to present. So I referred to that strategic need, so that goes to national and then local. So if we can move to the next slide, Saeed, please. So there's so much going on, isn't there? I mean, we started off the meeting today around some of the impacts that we're all facing. So when we talk about strategic considerations, or I talk about these strategic considerations, it's not just locally. As a chief inspector, you're a senior manager. So it'd be about how those things that are going on nationally are affecting policing in general. So as a chief inspector, I can't remember what the exact stat is, but you're something like the top 5% police officers in the country once you become a chief inspector. So you've got to be cognizant of those impacts of... Sorry? Oh, so it's about, how you deal against those affecting police in general, that scrutiny on policing. So we in Bedfordshire are strong drivers of cultural learning, cultural intelligence, and there is genuinely a need, I think we would all agree, for policing to catch up with such areas such as diversity and inclusivity. And we've invested heavily in that within Bedfordshire. So that scrutiny on policing has never been greater. We look at the Borg agenda on the back of Carrick and Cousins, and then the Black Lives Matter movement. All of that has placed policing under a cultural microscope. And as a senior leader, you have to be considerate and aware of those issues and how it impacts the way you behave, the standards that you set personally, and the standards that you set for your teams. Scrutiny and expectation is just one element that's impacted the morale in policing, but societal issues, significant uplift in resources means we now manage, well, certainly a different generation of people to me. And with all due respect, looking at some of the people I know on this call, a different generation of people to some of you too. And they all have different needs. What they mainly have is a significantly reduced level of experience in policing. There was a time not that long ago when if you were a chief inspector, many of the teams, and all of you are operating inspector level, many of the people in your teams would still have a significant amount of experience. And that is not the case now. I think the majority of our workforce has got under 5 years experience. And that is a huge impact on managers, because it's then on you to deliver that learning, that development, that experience, as well as delivering the day-to-day need. So we have to be considerate of that. And also, my expectations going into this process is that you looked around the technology and the partnership opportunities to manage that demand and manage that impact within your evidence. Are you considerate of how technology, advancements and opportunities could help with the efficiencies that we needed to deliver within policing? Money is always an ugly topic, but as a chief inspector, your budgetary responsibilities will increase and the expectations to find efficiencies will increase. So you must be aware, or at least cognizant of, those financial impacts and the technological efficiencies and partnership and collaboration opportunities that will exist within your evidence or could exist within the questions that you get. Okay, slide 5, please. I think this just Bedfordises, actually, a lot of the stuff I've just said. So how is this reflected locally within Bedfordshire Police? So first of all, like many forces, I think all forces actually, we have a control strategy. I am not going to go through the control strategy. If you are applying to be a chief inspector in Bedfordshire, my expectation is that you know what the control strategy is, you know what our operational priorities are, and that the work you are doing is already driving and delivering towards those priorities. The control strategy clearly defines our priorities that impact Bedfordshire. And you have to ask yourself, does your evidence not only hit the level of a chief inspector, as I've just alluded to, that management criteria, and consider those national impacts to close the loop, but it must deliver against these clear thematic priorities we have in Bedfordshire, because that's the evidence that we'll be looking to score against. That's what we want to be seeing from our chief inspectors. If we can carry on, Saeed. Now, this to me at a strategic level is probably the most important page, and I'll make no apologies. I do refer to this most days to ensure that what we're doing is delivering against the vision of the Chief Constable. So our annual delivery plan, or the Chief's vision, listen, I go all over the place, and I know that some of you within your roles or indeed your additional portfolios will do the same. And I think this is one of the clearest strategic directions I've seen from most forces. And it consolidates all of those local, national needs into a clear strategic focus. So what I would suggest is if you're not a member of Bedfordshire Police and you've not already got line of sight of this, you do request it, because it's really important that you know what that annual delivery plan is and that Chief's vision. You should be conscious and working towards delivering against these 4 key areas that are highlighted around the annual delivery plan. And once again, we come to that key word of culture, that cross-cutting theme of how we deliver against our cultural values and our ambitions as a force. Folks, there's so many things. I'm a chief super, so you will acknowledge I have been through many processes, some successfully, some horrendously, and failed and passed many. And what I've learned in that period, and I'll share my personal knowledge without, do not try and learn everything and anything that you think is on the intranet you need to get your head around. I can promise you, if you're operating as an inspector, you know this. Please don't exhaust yourself with overthinking it. I purposely have put those key things within this presentation in the Bedfordshire element, because they for me, as the chair of this process, are the key areas that I'd be wanting you to evidence. Those national agendas and those cultural agendas are the things I would be expecting you to be aware of in your answers or evidencing within your written applications. So I've given you a clear steer of where this would go towards and what I expect. And I make no apologies, and I'll be transparent with you all in that the bar for promotion has been set really high this year. And the reason for that is we do not have many forecast vacancies at the rank of Chief Inspector within our leadership team. And therefore, to ensure that we as a leadership team are legitimate, effective, in our delivery of those strategic objectives on that page in front of you, we are truly looking for those that are completely ready for promotion and can evidence delivery at a chief inspector level in terms of the criteria. And they're the ones that will be an opportunity for promotion. And there's a big difference, and I say this to everybody, there is a really big difference between a good inspector and an officer who is ready and can evidence the capability of being a chief inspector. So please make sure you're not evidencing a really good bit of work as an inspector. Make sure it's hitting that criteria and you're feeding into these elements, but at a chief inspector level. And you're showing that awareness and that consideration that you need as a chief inspector, because that bar is high. And that will be the key to success going into this process. But I've no doubt, sounds a bit doom and gloomy, I've no doubt that you are already, otherwise you wouldn't be supported and dialed into this meeting. So just please ensure you've got really clear guidance from me. I always try, anybody who knows me, I try and be as transparent as possible without getting myself in trouble. And I just prefer to be really candid, and that's why that bar is high. And that's why I ask that you make sure your evidence is reflective of the strategic direction and of that chief inspector level. Unless there's any questions immediately for me now, the next bits are all governed by Saeed. But if there's any questions, Saeed, I know the questions come at the end, mate, but I'm happy to take them now. Don't see any hands.
Just going to look through the chat to see if there's anything. Nothing in the chat.
Okay, mate, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly talk through the assessment process and the accountability areas and the different stages of the process. So for the Chief Inspector's process, we've got 4 main accountability areas. I'm just trying to load up my notes. We've got 4 main accountability areas. In your application stage, you're going to be evidencing against 3 of them. So that's managing resources, operational supervision, and building partnerships. The 4 accountability areas have been created from the Chief Inspector National Role Profile by the College of Policing. So this is what you're going to be assessed against throughout the process. In addition to this, you'll also be assessed against organisational knowledge in line with force priorities, and that will come at the board stage of the process. So next slide is all about a bit more of an in-depth view of the accountability areas. We do also have a CVF mapping document now. So this just gives you a slight overview of each area, but we also have a more in-depth document with more detailed descriptors. So I would advise you to look at that document. I'm not sure if it's been shared already, but I can share it with you guys. And essentially that just gives you it maps across to CVFs, so it tells you what area relates to what CVF, and it also has a bit more detailed descriptors for each of the 4 areas that you can be assessed against. So what stages do you have for the process? The first stage is the application form. You're going to be submitting evidence in readiness for the rank of Chief Inspector across those 3 areas. It's 500 words per area. And like I said, the accountabilities have been adapted from the National Role Profile. On the form, you also have your posting preferences. Please do fill this out. This will, if you are successful in the process, this will be taken into consideration. Also, substantive chief inspectors would be asked if they want to move. So just do fill that out. Often we do have blanks in the application form. The application form needs to be signed off by your line manager as well as head of department. So you need to be supported as ready for promotion across the 3 areas to move on to the next stage of the process. Once you've submitted your application form, it will go into a moderation meeting. This is a local meeting, and essentially the moderation panel will have an oversight of all applications that have been received, and they will decide on who will move on to the next stage of the process. And just to make it quite clear, the moderation panel can overturn a grading or a review of the line manager and head of department if it's not in line with what they've seen across the board. And the purpose of the moderation panel is to ensure a consistent standard of applications being applied. Also within the process, you do fill out a Clarity 4D profile. So if you're successful at the moderation stage, you'll be invited to complete a Clarity 4D profile. And these are just, this just identifies your natural preferences, and it's based on some psychology of Carl Jung. So there's no ideal or perfect profile. There's nothing that's considered desirable or undesirable. It essentially just highlights your natural preferences. This profile is going to be shared with the panel prior to the boards, so they will have a sight of this within your board pack, and it might also support some of the questions that you face within the board stage of the process. So now going into the board stage of the process, essentially it's 2 parts. You've got a presentation aspect and you've got the interview. It's all done within the same room. Once you arrive on the day, you will be given 30 minutes to prepare. So you'll be taken to a preparation room. You'll have all of the materials you need to prepare for the presentation, and it will assess the operation policing element. Following the presentation, you go into the boardroom, you do your presentation for 10 minutes, and following that, the panel will ask questions based on your presentation. And then following that, you'll have an interview with the same panel, and you'll be asked about organisational knowledge in line with local priorities, and also the leadership area that's been covered in the accountability areas. So that's the application and board stage of the process. Oops, I've just skipped a slide.
Can I just say on that one last bit though, Saeed? So these processes are never comfortable, and I want you all to know, and hopefully those that have been in a process with me before, they are a formal process. They are about you doing your best in that period of time. There's a responsibility there for us as a panel as well. So we do genuinely try and make them as personal as we can do. It's about you being you. I will never look for robotic, structured answers. If that's your style, then that's fine. But it's great to understand people when you're delivering your evidence. Be unique, be yourself. Don't feel like you need to deduce or adapt something that doesn't enable you to perform your best. It's our job to make sure that we are understanding your evidence and having that conversation with you within the panel. So please make sure, I can't emphasize enough, without a cheesy strapline into it, it is about being you. So be yourself in that meeting. I'm more interested in understand how you as a manager do what you do and fit into that force culture than just giving a structured robotic answer that you feel hits the structure. It's important that you have structure and you deliver your evidence, but please be yourself. And I will do all I can as the chair of that process to enable that to happen. Sorry, sorry.
No, perfect. Thank you for that. So that's the process side of things. Does anyone have any questions before I just move on to workplace adjustments? I'll just have a quick check in the chat. No, I don't see any questions. So workplace adjustments, if you would benefit from a workplace adjustment at any stage of the process, whether it's the application stage or the board stage, do contact us at promotions and we can put some time in to discuss that. Again, the SPOC is going to be the final decision maker of whether an adjustment is reasonable, but what we'll do is we'll gather all of the information and then pass it on to the SPOC. If you do need any, if you do want to speak to anyone outside of the promotions process and you just need some advice or discuss your requirements, you can also contact Katie Fulcher. She is the workplace adjustments advisor, and she'd be more than happy to help you with that. On the screen now, just some examples that we've used before previously for candidates. Again, it's not like an exhaustive list. We do tailor it to your needs. So if you do have anything specific, just please contact us as soon as possible and we can start those discussions. We will also be giving, I think we've already given panel member names to be fair, but yeah, any conflicts of interest raised, we'll obviously be able to deal with that for the board stage of the process. But I know the panel members have already been discussed. And then finally, just timescales. So the advert's currently open and it closes on the 26th of January. Following that, the moderation process will take place on the 5th of Feb, and we'll be sending out results as soon as possible. And then the boards will take place commencing the 10th of March. And then following that, we'll have the posting meetings, and then effective date of posting will be the 6th of May. And that's it really from myself. I'll just pause there to see if there's any questions from anyone before we end the session. Dan, if you want to come in.
Hi, sir. Thanks very much for today. You said about the vacancies, projected vacancies. Do you know how many that's going to be?
No, that's a bit of a piece of string, Dan, to be honest with you, because mate, you'll respect that things change really quickly, don't they? So if I give you some understanding that at the moment in Bedfordshire, we have more people on a board pass for superintendent, to be completely transparent with you, than we do superintendent posts. So there's a knock-on effect there automatically. Things change very quickly, and there are a number of people, and I will say this, in temporary posts right now, not just in Bedfordshire, but across our collaborated services. So there are a number of people temporary in opportunities that exist, and then people that will require postings, etc. So there are vacancies. I need to emphasise that. This is not lost cause. Please don't think, well, what's the point? There are vacancies, and there will be projected vacancies, but most things move through that shift upwards. And at the moment, that shift upwards is kind of not there, if that makes sense, because of the fact that we've continued and we've honoured that annual promotion process at every level, and as a result, we have got that buffer of additional superintendents. So there's that natural development of posts that exists isn't there at the moment. I can't give you an exact number, mate, of there's 5, 6, 7 chief inspector posts. But what I can say is, off the top of my head, there's at least that many people in temporary chief inspector positions as we're having this conversation.
No worries, I understand. Thanks very much.
All right, mate.
Emma, if you got a question?
Yeah, apologies, sir. Just you said about who the third person would be on the panel. Did you say it was Adewale Abatoya from Veru?
I didn't.
Oh, his apologies. I've obviously just made that name up. Sorry, who's the third person on the board, sir?
So that's fair play. I'm not saying you weren't listening then, but I definitely never said that. No, there was. It'll be myself, Kelly Gardner, and Leanne Greenacre.
Leanne Greenacre. Lovely. Thank you very much.
All right, mate. I think that's it. So, anybody else from anyone else? No, folks, genuinely, these processes always feels like an additional hoop to jump through, doesn't it? And they're not ideal, but until somebody with a far greater mind than me comes up with the ideas of how we can have a different process, this for me is still a great shop window. All the hard work and all the experience you've got to be put in a consolidated format, and for you to present that, it's not a case of me and a panel of people judging it. It's a case of you having the opportunity to actually, and some of us aren't comfortable with that, around showcasing and talking about the really good work that we've done over the years. But it is a great opportunity. I always find it quite cathartic to actually look back. Actually, that was really good. We've had a great impact from that. So it sounds daft, but try and enjoy it a little bit, because it does give you that opportunity to reflect on all the hard work you've done, and all the good work that your teams will have delivered through that evidence. And I can't emphasise that enough. And hopefully these inputs are helpful to steer you towards what evidence and how you need to put that into place going into both the written and the formal application. The one thing I'll say, Saeed, sorry mate, and it's not on here, is I think that promotion process is an area, it's fair to say, that we're constantly learning from and evolving. So if there's feedback you have and you don't want to give it now, I don't expect people to raise their hands and feel that they need to give it now. But if there is feedback you have around these inputs, how it could be better formatted, shaped to guide you into these processes, I personally am really appreciative of that feedback, because I've done it myself where I didn't think that added value or this had value. So if you think that there's something within these initial inputs going into these processes that could add value to you as a candidate, please speak up, because we're a learning culture, a learning environment, and we want to continually evolve these promotion processes to get them as fair and as transparent as possible. And like I say, get the best candidates through and give them the best opportunity to present their evidence. I think that's fair to say, Syed, isn't it? We often look for that feedback in these processes, and that will include these inputs. So if there's anything from this, even just this brief part, please do speak up or write in, because it'd be gratefully received. Okay. Anything else from anybody else? Anything else from you, Saeed?
No, nothing from me. Thank you very much.
Folks, good luck. I genuinely mean that. I wish you all the best. There will be people across your peers, across the organisation. Reach out to them. They will no doubt be able to help you with these processes if you're stuck or you've got a query or a question. I always say I will do that. Unfortunately, this year I can't. It would be completely conflicting of me to do so, bearing in mind I'm on the panel. And all I'd ask is that now you know that the proposed panel is also Kelly Gardner and Leanne Greenacre, you also excuse them from that ask of help and support. But everybody else, harass them and get as much information and support from them as you can if you need it. And on that note, my only other bit of advice, and again, this is a personal thing, don't ask too many people for a different opinion. Everyone's different, everyone's unique. So what we're after is you within your application. So keep the people you ask for advice to a minimal number. Otherwise, you probably, in my experience, end up going round and round in circles with some of your answers and evidences. I found it counterproductive. I genuinely wish you all the best. For those that I do see in a board process, I look forward to seeing you then. And unless there's anything else from anybody else, please feel free to get on with your very busy days. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
that.
you, boss.
Thanks very
Thanks,
much.
Saeed.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Stop the recording, Saeed.